Volume 6 might be the best that RWBY has ever been. Now that it's all over, that seems to be a pretty popular opinion, and understandably so. If you've been watching Crewbie behind the episode, it's clear that everyone is pulling out all the stops to make all the sound, visuals, and everything in between better than ever. It really shows, and at face value, it's really quite easy to call RWBY Volume 6 the best that the show has to offer. But to be honest, my favorite things about RWBY have never been what you can see at face value. Look a little deeper and you can find some really cool stuff hidden beneath the surface. This is where you see that Salem is making flying monkeys because she's meant to allude to the Wicked Witch of the West. Or that, wow, Weiss really doesn't seem to want to go to Atlas. But it's also where you see a lot of the more common complaints about Volume 6. Like, why is RWBY giving so many speeches? What happened to the show's runtime? How am I supposed to feel suspense in these fights if RWBY just one-shotted Cordovan's mech and then fully unlocked her power that trivializes practically apocalyptic situations with no apparent downsides? Why is everyone else even here if RWBY can do so much on her own? Why does the intro emphasize Weiss so heavily when she has less involvement than any of the other three main characters? Why are Cinder and Neo putting on less clothes to go to what seems like the coldest place on the planet? I love this show. So I'm glad that people are bringing up those issues. I really do think that they should be addressed. Still though, those aren't the issues I want to talk about, because frankly, I tend to look deeper still into the show.
It starts with the unexpected loss of something dear.
This is where I think RWBY really shines. Really take a good long look at it, and you find things like Yang has been having so many issues with Blake because she sees a lot of her mother in her.
The innocent never run, Yang.
Oz gave his magic to the Four Maidens because they reminded him of his own children, who also had magic before they died. Weiss is wearing a red scarf because she has a sort of hero worship for her grandfather. And along those lines, I suspect Crow is having so much difficulty dealing with RWBY because she's becoming more and more like Summer. Unfortunately, we don't actually know an awful lot about what Summer was like, so I can't really say that last one with certainty. But Summer also isn't the character that I see RWBY becoming much more like. Instead, there's someone else she's developing into, and making that happen without addressing it is, in my opinion, the biggest problem with RWBY Volume 6. A major theme of RWBY Volume 6 seems to be that if you know you're right, then you need to do whatever it takes to make things happen. Even if the people around you think that you're wrong. You don't need to listen to them, just do what you know is right. It's an uplifting message, and you can see it in the show's intro song, the question whether to leave the relic at Brunswick Farms, and the way that the team reacted to Ozpin.
You know, I'm getting real tired of people choosing what's best for me.
And as long as we're talking about the show's message, I'd like to take a moment to note something that Miles Luna, co-writer of RWBY and head writer for Rooster Teeth Animation, said in an interview.
I mean, I'm constantly terrified of accidentally not thinking about something, and then that's in the show, and then it's like, how could you represent that way? And it's like, I didn't think about it. I'm sorry.
That's an important thing to keep in mind, as we consider the most important time where RWBY decides to do what's right, no matter what she's told. Delivering a positive message is a high priority. But things got a little weird around the end of Chapter 9. Here, the heroes decide that they know what's right, which is stealing from the Atlas military, no matter what Crow tells them. It's a little weird because, until now, doing what's right has always meant putting themselves in danger, not doing bad things to good people for the greater good. And around the time RWBY says this, you'll have made the connection I mentioned earlier, if you're looking at the show the same way that I am.
We didn't want to steal from you, we did it because you gave us no other choice.
For those of you who didn't make the connection, here it is.
Taking this dust is only illegal in the eyes of the same people that call us animals.
Please, we're just trying to pass through.
Well, you animals passed through the wrong town.
There's no need for violence. that wasn't necessary. This is the very reason they think they can treat—
Kira! He saved your life. He's a hero.
Ruby is not seeming more and more like Summer to me. She is seeming more and more like Adam. Remember that central theme I mentioned earlier? If you know you're right, then you need to do whatever it takes to make things happen, even if the people around you think you're wrong. You don't need to listen to them, just do what you know is right. As soon as we start applying whatever it takes to being malicious to other people, it stops being uplifting. Adam believes that he's right. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get the faunus respect from humans, even if it means resorting to crime and violence, because just talking wasn't working. Even if the people around him tell him that he's wrong, his cause is important enough that the ends justify the means. Ruby believes that she's right. She's willing to do whatever it takes to get to Atlas, even if it means resorting to crime and violence, because just talking wasn't working. Even if the people around her tell her that she's wrong, her cause is important enough that the ends justify the means. This makes Adam a villain. It sets him down a path of destruction where he ultimately loses everything and dies a gruesome, miserable death. But Ruby, this makes Ruby a hero. It sets her down a path where all her friends support her, where those who oppose her change their minds, and she's celebrated for helping to resolve problems that she helped create in the first place. Adam's entire life falls apart as punishment for putting his own ideals above the rest of the world, while Ruby is rewarded for doing the same. And that brings me back to that interview from earlier. Miles Luna does not want to deliver a bad message in Ruby. But the message I'm taking away from Ruby Volume 6 is that when other people decide they know what's right and are willing to do bad things to good people to make it happen, they're evil. They'll pay for their crimes. But if you decide the same thing, then you're good. You are strong enough to do what's right, no matter the cost. Now, if we can stop talking about Ruby for a moment, there really are no evil people. Everyone thinks they know what's right, that they're doing the right thing. But if we convince ourselves that only we know what's best and that it's okay to do bad things to other people, then we appear evil to others. If two people with opposing ideals are both insistent that they'll do whatever's necessary, there's conflict. Sometimes it's simple harassment, sometimes it's petty theft, sometimes it's violence, sometimes it's war. By failing to consider the opinions of others and deciding that we know what's best, we justify doing all sorts of horrible things to each other. Great, and now I'm saying that wars happen because of the ideals presented in this silly show. I must sound completely out of my mind. How is that any different from, say, an action movie where the hero needs to steal a car to chase the bad guys? Well, it is and it isn't. They're both doing bad things to good people because the ends justify the means. But only Ruby is making it a central theme. And for what it's worth, it's not especially common for other pieces of fiction to emphasize that victory is in a simple soul. And it's not especially common that you're meant to look deeper into the implications of the actions of the heroes in silly action flicks. I'm also certainly not saying that Ruby causes wars. Well, maybe ship wars. But that's not what this discussion is about. It's about the issue that Ruby Volume 6 puts so much effort into trying to deliver a positive message, but the message it actually delivers is one that can cause so much pain if embraced. Everyone should learn to consider the thoughts and opinions of others, but Ruby is teaching people to do the opposite. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest problem with Ruby Volume 6. That's why, in spite of the incredible levels of objective quality, I can't help but consider this my least favorite season of my favorite show.